Well, have you ever been dumped in a relationship? Or have you ever broken up with somebody? Today we talk about breaking up with porn. Welcome aboard.
Guys ready?
When it comes to porn, are you stuck, spinning out, or slipping backwards in your life? If so, then welcome to the Finding Traction podcast, a show dedicated to those who are looking to gain recovery momentum away from porn and toward the life and relationships they have always hoped for. Now, here's your host, Vern Tomke.
Well, it's good to be back together with you, getting ready for the football season. Hopefully you, if you're a football fan, you're also getting excited. Well, today I wanted to just talk a little bit about just a couple ways to connect with you. We're always starting groups in terms of finding traction groups. And some of the topics that we talk about on this podcast are ones that we have a video series on, a 52-week video series. I've got guys who are doing that lesson or those lessons and that program on their own. But better yet, some guys are doing it with others or doing it within a group. And so if you want more information about the Finding Traction course, that's the 52-week video series, I encourage you to go on the website, which is bandofbrothers.care. C-A-R-E. And if you just want more information about the Finding Traction groups, send me an email at bandofbrothers.care@gmail.com. And if you go back over some of the lessons, you will see these lessons called life hacks. And I have given you short 5-minute podcasts from the first 13 lessons. Now there's 52 in all, but at least if you go through those, you'll get a clear idea of the way that we approach the topics and how we handle it. So anyways, let's go back to this whole idea of ending relationships. And do you love the difference in vocabulary between if you were on the receiving end of the end of a relationship, we call it being dumped. But of course, if you were on the initiating end, we call it breaking up with somebody. You know, there's no small surprise there. You know, getting dumped is when you have been told that it's over. Well, we're going to talk today about this whole idea of breaking up, and in specific, breaking up with porn. And, there are some classic breakup lines. And, the ones that you always hear about, the number one classic breakup line that's always talked about is this line where you say, it's not you, it's me. Now that's, of course, when you're doing the breaking up, it's not you, it's me, trying to let the other person down easy. Of course, it never works. But that one's so tried and true, and it's so old that I thought that we need to be a little more creative. So I've come up with, 8, 9, or 10 new ideas around breakup lines that if you are thinking of ending a relationship with somebody, you might want to try one of these. These are more creative. So here's a few examples. Number 1, hey babe, I think it's time we take our relationship to the previous level. I like that one. Here's another good one. Hey babe, I think it's about time we cancel our gym membership. We're just not working out anymore. That one's really bad. Okay. Here's another one. Hey babe, you must be in a tunnel because we're breaking up. Little technology there. Number 4, I think we need to become better strangers. Here's a good one. Number 5. Hey babe, I think we need to cover more ground, so we should split up. If you're a big Star Wars fan, which I am not, hey babe, I'm calling myself Hans because you need to be solo. That one's really cheesy. Here's a geographic one. Hey, we must be tectonic plates because we're drifting apart. So that one is a good. No, that's a geology. There we go. Geology. Here's one that's a bit cruel. Hey, babe, raise your hand if you have a boyfriend. Not so fast. Okay. Here's a good one if you're an English major. If we could arrange the alphabet, I would keep you and I pretty much where they are, far apart from each other. Maybe even make them a little further away. If you're a history buff, we should make like the Soviet Union and split up. And finally, if you are a music fan, hey babe, I think you are about to have a deeper appreciation for Adele's songs. Oh my goodness. There we go. Okay, so there are some new breakup lines, but most importantly, I'm hoping none of you are contemplating a breakup, but there is one breakup I hope you are well underway in the process of breaking up, and that is breaking up with porn. So let me give you just a little bit of thoughts around that whole idea and some ideas that you may want to consider in breaking up with porn. And these are just a few steps that I think have to get played out. And you might have just stumbled into this podcast. I do find people, some of the people are old hats at this, but other people are brand new. They're just at the process of maybe for the very first time, they're at the process of going, for the first time, I am starting to contemplate the fact that I may need to end my relationship with porn. And it really is a relationship. And so maybe you're at the earliest stages of that, or maybe you've been trying for a while. But here's a few things that I would suggest that are steps towards that process. Number one, count the costs. This sometimes is easier for some guys than others, but think through different areas of your life. Now, some guys immediately, let's say if they're in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, a fiance, a marriage, the very first cost that you might be confronted with. Now, you often aren't confronted with this if you're still single, but if you're in a relationship, this might be the one that's staring you in the face, where all of a sudden you realize your wife, fiance, girlfriend is going, I'm not happy with this. This is not, you are not living out, the behaviors of the sort of guy that I want to spend my life with. And this can't go on. And it won't go on. And it won't go on with me in the picture. And then you go, oh my goodness. Well, that's a cost. That's a pretty big cost. So that's an obvious one that often guys that get a hold of me, usually it's because of some relational crisis. But there's a whole bunch of other costs, you go through. It could be simply relational costs around your family. You've not been present or there for your kids. You've not been in a situation where you go, I feel more isolated from my own brothers and sisters, for example. I feel like I'm hiding out alone. This is having a relational cost with the people that I say that I value. So maybe it's relational that way. Your buddies, they're going, what's up with you, dude? It's having a relational cost there. Could be a physical cost. Guys experience physical changes, physical challenges because of this. It could be financial costs. I remember Doug Weiss talking about, he estimated that people could lose up to $300,000 because of a sexual addiction. I'm going, what are we talking about? But whether it's $300,000 or $30,000, the point is there's an opportunity cost. There's a whole lot of time and energy that you're not focusing on building a life, building a career, building a business, whatever it is, because of your energy just getting sucked away by porn. So it does have financial costs. Spiritual costs, living with a sense of guilt and shame. Perhaps in your spiritual tradition, you go, this just violates everything that I say that I want to be true about me. Emotional costs. You're just going, I don't even like the person that I see in the mirror. I feel defeated. I feel ashamed of who I'm becoming. I'm ashamed of where I go now in terms of what I'm thinking about or what I'm viewing. Just the power that shame holds over you. There is a lot of costs. And you might be at the very initial stages, and I just encourage you to sit down, with a piece of paper and just start outlining all of those costs, the big ones, the small ones, that this has had in your life, that this has played in your life. And if you haven't, started thinking that you need to dump porn, you being the one that's dumping, probably by the end of the exercise, you will be a lot more convinced that that is something that needs to happen. Now you say, okay, well, that's a pretty simple process. I guess by the end of it, you just break up. Well, the answer is no. We all know that we've all had good intentions around breaking up with this toxic, we'll call her girlfriend, porn. I had a guy recently that gave her a name for his porn habit, but the point is, it's not quite that easy to break up with porn. This is a relationship that continually comes back, calls and phones and texts, and shows up in your driveway. And, it is not an easy relationship to break up with. And that's where the second point comes in. You need to acknowledge the relationship, acknowledge even the benefits that this toxic relationship has brought to your life. You mean, what do I mean by benefits? By that I mean you have to acknowledge the needs that porn was meeting in your life. Even if it was in illegitimate and harmful ways, you need to acknowledge it met certain needs. I mean, why would you continue to do it for 5, 10, 15, 20 years where it was having all of these consequences? The reason is because it was meeting legitimate needs in illegitimate ways. And you need to acknowledge that. If you're not prepared to acknowledge that, then you're not going to be faced with the biggest question of all is, let's say I end this relationship with this habit, this struggle that has met so many needs in my life. What am I going to do? Just go cold turkey and then have all of these gaping holes in my life, this huge vacuum? If I'm not willing to recognize how it met my needs, then I'm not going to be prepared when I start missing it, because now I have all of these unmet needs. So you need to acknowledge how it's met those needs. Whether that you want to call that a benefit, whether you just want to call whatever but it has served a purpose in your life, albeit in a negative, harmful way. So it's important to recognize that, because the process of breaking up means you're going to have to now turn and learn to meet those needs in new, more healthy, holistic ways. So the first one was count the costs. Second one is to acknowledge what it brought you. Acknowledge the needs that it met in you. All right? Now here's the third one. You need to tell someone. Let's say, for example, you decide you're going to break up with somebody, but you don't want to tell anybody, just in case you go back to them. Well, how successful is that going to be? You're probably going to change your mind in short order anyways and go back to that relationship. If you're not prepared to tell someone, that is a way of reinforcing the truth of that decision, that resolve, that change of direction in your life. It's in the telling someone, it's that new direction is actually reinforced. with guys that are in my group. Some of the guys, it's the very first time, the very first group, they've said, you know what, I'm making a new direction for my life. And this is the first step I am in telling people about that. So that was number 3, is the idea of telling someone. Find a safe person, and you might say, well, what if I tell someone, but I end up struggling again? Or in this example, for this word picture break, what if I told somebody and then I end up going back to them? One of the things that happened over the years in a helping profession I was in is I would have oftentimes a lot of phone calls from people who were in various states of distress. And I remember this one call we got from this woman, and she had been beaten up by her boyfriend. I think there was a kid or two involved, and she desperately wanted out of the relationship. So I remember it was the boyfriend was out of the house, and I think he had gone away. Gone away for 3 or 4 hours or whatever it was. It wasn't going to be back. She called us in desperation. I need out of this relationship. I remember me and my wife and my youngest son, he was living with us at the time. We went over to their place. We packed up all of their stuff, not all of their stuff. We packed up a chunk of her stuff, anything that we could do in the case of an hour or two. We had a van. We threw a bunch of stuff in a van and got her to a transition house. I remember that. It was like, 11 o'clock at night or something. It was, and then here's the crazy thing. It was about 3 weeks later or a month later, someone had talked to us about her. And they said, yeah, her and her boyfriend. And we go, no, they're not together. She says, oh yeah, they're together. She left the transition house and is now back with him. Because that relationship, that toxic, dysfunctional, harmful relationship was still meeting a need in her life, even though it was causing her all of that damage. Now that's an extreme example, but I think all of us can identify with that in us going back to a relationship where we know is still harming us because there's other things that are happening. So count the costs, acknowledge the benefits, or acknowledge how it's met your needs in a way in your life. Number 3, tell someone. And the last thing I want to do is actually to have you put this down in a formal way. One of the things back in episode 53, we talked about helping in that goodbye process by writing a goodbye letter to porn. Back in episode 53, my buddy Mike, he read out the letter that he had written. One of the things that we are doing in our groups is one of the lessons that we do, I think it's lesson 11 or something, is we count the costs, but we also talk about what porn brought us. And then at the end of the process, we write a goodbye letter. I did that myself. I don't know if I've done it on a podcast before, but mine's pretty short. But I want to read the letter that I had written to porn. And I want you to listen as I go through, because it's not only talking about the cost, but I'm talking about the relationship and what that relationship with porn had brought and how the needs it had met in my life, but why it was needed, why this relationship needed to end. So here's a letter that I had written. This is going back now a good 6-7 years ago. I'm saying goodbye to you, porn, completely and forever. You have been with me since I was a boy, tantalizing me, giving me an excitement to run and hide in. You've been something that has made me lose track of time and look for more. You have lived in my thoughts and given me thrills and helped me create my own alternate reality. But you have also filled me with guilt, shame, and a horrible aftertaste that makes me want to isolate from God and others. Yes, you have given me short-term adrenaline and thrills, but deeper down, you have robbed me of the internal energy and focus that could have been spent in me becoming a better man. You have given me a feeling of being Superman, but have robbed me of the deepest core of confidence that I have what it takes. This is the last time I will talk to you. I am done with you. Don't call. Don't write. I won't respond. Goodbye. Now, as we did that lesson, one of the questions that the guys asked was this. Okay, so what if I do that, but I ever end up going back to porn? Doesn't that make a mockery of the letter? Well, I've said to guys, this is a process. Part of the process is of you speaking these things out audibly that your heart is desperately desiring freedoms, desiring a new life. And I'm not naive enough. I mean, I know since I've written that letter, there have been occasions where I've looked at porn again. But it began a process, a resolve, a direction in my life that has culminated in where I am today. So, this is not saying that this is a magical bullet that if you write this letter, you're never going to struggle, you're never going to slip or fall. But this is a way of intentionalizing your commitment, speaking it out to other people, and beginning to walk this journey of freedom. So, I hope you come up with some really good breakup lines this week, and I hope you put that into motion by saying goodbye to porn. We'll see you next week. God bless.